One night, I was passing by Ami's room when I heard strange sounds coming from inside. I stood there, deeply puzzled, wondering what was happening to her. The muffled noises leaked out into the quiet hallway. Pressing my ear against the door, I could hear her faintly crying out for someone to stop. Looking around for a way to see what was happening, I noticed the window was slightly unlatched. I moved toward it cautiously, pushed it open a fraction, and peered inside. What I saw took my breath away. Abu was holding Ami by her hair, moving against her with intense force. The sight sent a shockwave through my entire body. My heart pounded furiously against my ribs. My name is Shehan. I am 20 years old, and I grew up recognizing the realities of life much earlier than most. It all started one night when I woke up to get a glass of water and accidentally witnessed Ami and Abu in that raw, intimate state. A sight a son was never supposed to see. Over time, I grew accustomed to witnessing these moments, but they left a deep, aching pain inside me. Because of this heavy secret, I couldn't sleep normally anymore. I found myself constantly waiting for the late hours when Abu would approach Ami, just to steal a forbidden glance. Even during the day, during regular family walks, my eyes would involuntarily fixate on her. Somewhere along the line, I had fallen in love with Ami. I desired to do everything to her that Abu did. As time went on, Abu grew older and visibly more exhausted. I could see that Ami was becoming increasingly restless. Abu simply lacked the stamina to satisfy her properly. On the other hand, I was in the prime of my youth, possessing a strong, healthy body, and carrying features that were sharper and more attractive than Abu's ever were. I began noticing the subtle, longing glances Ami would cast my way. Because she had married so young and I was born shortly after, we looked incredibly close in age. Anyone looking at us sitting together would find it hard to believe I was her son. Our features mirrored each other perfectly. But now, my gaze was fixed on her with a different kind of intensity, making me deeply restless. I wanted to make Ami mine as soon as possible. The opportunity began to take shape on the occasion of Ami's cousin's wedding. Ami spent hours getting ready for the event. She wore a stunning saffron-colored dress that made her look absolutely radiant. It had been a long time since she had dressed up with such care, and she took her sweet time in front of the mirror. With a bit of time left before our departure, I sat on the sofa, pretending to be absorbed in my phone, though my outfit was already fully prepared. We were supposed to head to the wedding venue together, Ami, Abu, and myself. Yet, my eyes refused to wander away from Ami. At that moment, she was struggling to fasten a delicate necklace around her neck. Seizing the chance, I immediately stood up and offered to do it for her. Ami looked genuinely pleased by my gesture. "Look at you, learning how to handle women's things," she teased gently. "Your future wife is going to be very happy because you've learned everything so well." Looking directly at her reflection, I replied, "Ma, you're saying this just by looking at my appearance. I have indeed learned everything. You can even test it out on yourself if you'd like. I'm no longer that little child you used to feed with your own hands. I understand how the world works now." Ami froze, her eyes locking onto mine through the mirror's reflection. I stood there, equally well-dressed and resolute. There was so much more I wanted to say, but a heavy, sudden silence fell over her as she stared back at me, overwhelmed by a sudden wave of hesitation. I broke the eye contact and looked away. I simply didn't have the raw courage to lay it all bare to her just yet. Shortly after, Abu honked the car horn from outside, and we all headed out. I adjusted the car window, keeping to myself. As Abu drove, Ami sat in the back seat, and I kept tracking her every movement through the rearview mirror. The wedding ceremony eventually concluded, and we returned home late into the night. Father went straight to bed and fell asleep almost instantly. Still restless, I stayed out in the courtyard, pacing around with my earphones on, listening to music. Suddenly, Ami walked out into the courtyard and stopped in surprise upon seeing me. "Shehan, you're still awake? Why aren't you sleeping at this hour?" I looked at her, the weight of my thoughts heavy in my voice. "Ami, what should I do? A strange anxiety is tormenting me so much that sleep completely evades me." Ami looked at me with a mix of surprise and amusement, letting out a soft laugh. All right then, what kind of worry is keeping my son awake so late? Tell me. Looking at her directly, I let my boundaries slip. You and Abu sleep peacefully every night, while I am left awake through the early hours. Ami's laughter faded, replaced by utter astonishment at my sheer boldness. Recovering her composure, she murmured, "It sounds like my son is in urgent need of a good wife." "No, Ami," I replied quickly. "I have no desire to entangle myself in those kinds of responsibilities at this age." Confused, Ami pressed further. "Then what is it? What are you trying to say? Please, speak clearly." Catching myself before pushing too far, I deflected. "Please, just make me a cup of tea. My head is throbbing violently from all the noise and rush at the wedding." As Ami turned and walked toward the kitchen to prepare the tea, my mind began to spiral into a frantic loop. I wondered if I should just confess all my desires to her right then and there. The setting was absolutely perfect. But what if she flew into a rage? I felt trapped in a grueling dilemma, yet I knew I had to play my cards right. I couldn't afford to ruin my chances. I wanted a future with her, and I knew she had her own unfulfilled needs from marrying so early. After brewing the tea, Ami brought it over and then quietly retreated to the bedroom. Normally, during the colder months, I would sleep in my own separate room, usually retiring around 11 p.m. after finishing my studies. By that time, Ami and Abu would usually be done with their dinner. I would lie awake until about 1 o'clock or 2 a.m., which was precisely when Abu would wake Ami up. That would be my cue to fully wake up, though I always made sure never to give away the fact that I was watching them. The room was always dimly lit, blurring their expressions, but I knew exactly what was unfolding in the shadows. Tonight, as I stepped into the room, that same familiar, low amber glow was present. I lay down on my bed, waiting. Around 3 a.m., the familiar pattern repeated. Abu began to whisper softly, "Ami," which instantly pulled me out of my light slumber. Peering out from beneath the edge of my blanket, I watched the two of them. The entire scene played out right before my eyes like a private movie. However, the moment Abu finished, he rolled over, completely drained and exhausted. But I could see that Ami was left tossing and turning, her restlessness palpable in the dim light. It was obvious her needs hadn't been met. She kept shifting positions, agonizingly unfulfilled. A fierce urge built up inside me to stand up and join her, but it was an impossible risk with Abu sleeping right beside her. I lay there, feeling a shared sense of frustration. I don't know at what hour of the night exhaustion finally took over and I drifted off to sleep. The following morning, I woke up later than usual. Since it was a holiday, Ami hadn't woken either me or Abu early. Around 10:00 a.m., she finished preparing breakfast and came in to wake us. When I walked out into the dining area, I noticed Ami's hair was damp. Instead of wrapping it up in a towel, she had left it completely open and flowing. Droplets of water cascaded from her wet locks, leaving dark, damp patches across her clothes. I took in the sight greedily. Ami sat directly across from me, and I kept my eyes locked onto her. Every time her gaze drifted in my direction, I would quickly look down, pretending to focus on eating my paratha. Breaking the silence after breakfast, Ami asked, "Did you look into the chore I asked you to do?" I looked up at her, letting a deliberate sadness shadow my face. "How am I supposed to manage for so long without you?" I countered, before changing the subject. "Ami, where exactly is Abu heading?" "Your father is going to Lahore for a week on some urgent business," Ami replied. "He won't be back until the next holidays." A quiet satisfaction washed over me. Ami had already packed Abu's bags, neatly folding his clothes and organizing his essentials. Shortly after, Abu asked me to drive him to the railway station. I agreed with an eager hop in my step, thinking to myself, my time has finally come. The moment I have been desperately waiting for is here. I could see the path opening up before me. Ami was a passionate woman. She wasn't the type who could comfortably spend an entire week of nights alone. After dropping Abu off at the station, I hurried back home. I found Ami busy sweeping and cleaning the house. I walked over and sat down right next to her. "Ah, you look so lonely and sad," I murmured. "But I'm right here with you, aren't I?" Ami sighed softly. "Yes, you are here, Shehan. But who can truly take the place of your father?" Leaning in slightly, I whispered, "I told you, Ma. I am here now. I will take care of absolutely everything for you." Ami looked at me, a flicker of doubt and hesitation crossing her features. The rest of the day passed in a quiet, tense anticipation. By evening, I went out to meet up with my friends. I felt entirely liberated. There was nothing left to fear. I had already informed Ami beforehand that my friends usually hung out on Sundays and that I would be having dinner with them, and she had even handed me some pocket money before I left. When I finally unlocked the front door and stepped back inside at 11 p.m., I found Ami lying on a string cot out in the courtyard. She was completely unaware of my arrival since I had used my own set of keys. I approached her quietly and called out in a low voice, "Ma, wake up and come inside. Why are you sleeping out here in the open?" Ami sat up with a start, blinking against the darkness. "When did you get back, Shehan?" "Just now," I replied softly. Together, we walked back inside the bedroom. Ami lay down on her bed. Seizing the absolute stillness of the house, I took a seat near her and spoke with complete clarity. "Ma, I want to sleep here with you tonight, in Abu's place." Ami looked up at me, her eyes widening in surprise before a slow, knowing smile crept onto her lips. Empowered by her reaction, I laid all my cards on the table. "Ma, I see what the two of you do every single night. Watching it fills me with a restless desire. If you allow me, I want to ease that ache for both of us tonight." In that moment, stripped of all pretenses, it was clear that Ami desired this just as much as I did. She yielded to my request with an ease that surpassed my wildest imaginations. Afterward, as we lay there talking in the quiet room, Ma confessed that she had never experienced anything quite like that in her entire life. "That's wonderful, Ma," I whispered, holding her close. "But Abu is returning in a week. When will we ever get to do this again?" "Shehan, we will see what happens when tomorrow comes," Ma replied softly, trying to deflect. "No, Ma," I insisted, pulling her closer. "We need to start planning for it today." Ma fell silent for a moment, contemplating, before a spark lit up her eyes. "I actually have an idea, if you're willing to support me in it." "What is it, Ma?" I asked eagerly. "When your father returns," Ma explained, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, "I will tell him that I need to go visit my mother in Punjab for a while. We can use that as our cover." In reality, grandmother's house was tucked away in a quiet, distant village on the outskirts of Rahim Yarkhan.